We would like to thank your sponsor, Valley First, a division of First West Credit Union and a member-owned financial cooperative serving the Okanagan, Similkameen, and Thompson regions. They offer a wide range of banking and investment services for individuals and families. Valley First also has a talented business and commercial team to provide the expertise, products, and services local businesses need to grow and thrive.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Business Matters presented by Valley First, a division of First West Credit Union, where we delve into the stories and insights of leaders and change makers in our community. I'm your host, Rob Capello, and today we're joined by Ilona Morrison, the visionary owner of Vertical Greens Kelowna, a pioneer in indoor vertical aeroponics, did I get that right? Aeroponic garden right here in our city and in the background. You can see it in the background. So Ilona, thank you. Welcome to Business Matters.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So I'm excited. What I love doing these things is that I always learn about businesses that in our community that just fascinate me. And this is like one that obviously I didn't know that existed in a space that I didn't know much about. So I'm curious if we could start a little bit. Always like what sparked your passion for aeroponic gardening? Like, where did that even come from? Like, what were you doing where you're like, I'm going to start doing this?
So it's a good question. So I actually was born and raised in Hungary, and escaped communism, and we fled to Germany. And then from Germany, we ended up in Mississauga. I go to a lot of the places, and then ended up moving to Kelowna. It's been 17 years that I've been here, but being here, I realized that we have access to a lot of food in our grocery store, right? Stuff that didn't even exist 100 years ago. Right. Half the stuff, actually 80% of our groceries that we have access to didn't even exist. So, when I came here, I was like, wow, we have everything here. We have bananas and mangoes. Where is this all grown? Because growing up, we only ate what we grew, right? We knew what was on it, how it was grown, where the seeds came from. It was healthy. It was from the plant right to our plate. Yeah. And so coming to Canada made me realize that we have access to all this food, but where is it coming from? What is it being sprayed with? How long did it travel after they actually picked it, right? How many weeks on the trucks and then at the grocery store, then to our plate? So I was never really a gardener per se, but I always grew up with my dad, my grandpa, always gardening. Yeah. And so when we came to Canada, I thought, I don't want to garden. I don't have time for this. I don't know what I'm doing. You have 2 or 3 jobs when you move here. Oh. And it wasn't really a priority to me, but I've always enjoyed eating the fresh produce. So that's kind of how when I heard about the Tower Garden by Juice Plus, it's been 8 years when I got my first one. Wow. So when I first got my first one, people thought I was growing something else in my
Yeah, that's right.
and I thought it was hilarious. And now, fast forward 8 years with our economy and everything that's happening, inflation, food prices going up, people now say, what are you growing in your house? So that's how it all started 8 years ago. Yeah.
So how did you I'll call it sort of a passion, for lack of a better word, you integrated it into your life, but then where did the time come where you're like, I'm going to start a business? So you started Vertical Greens Kelowna. So where did that come from? Like what happened where you're like, no, I'm going to bring this to market to other people?
Yeah. So what happened was people on Nextdoor app, on Instagram, were coming to my house all the time to look at the tower. Oh my gosh. I was just inviting people in, sure, come take a look. This is how it works. And I always thought that I should do something bigger than just that. Right. And a friend of mine in Quebec, Jose, she really inspired me. She opened a bunch of these little places. This is not a big facility. I don't even know how many square feet, but it's not very big. Right. And it holds a lot of towers. So she said her vision, especially during the last 3 years when we didn't have access to fresh lettuce and it was through the roof, the pricing, she said, I want to help our community grow food locally without having to worry about it being brought into us. So she really inspired me. And I was telling my husband, I said, that's something I would love to do in Kelowna because Kelowna is known for the land of orchards, right? Yeah. We're known for fresh produce and have access to it in the summer, but the winter, we don't have access to any of that. So I was telling him that I would love to do that here. And he said, I think you should do it. And so we decided, to open up Vertical Greens Kelowna with, a bunch of people's helps coming up with the name. What would it look like? My daughter, who's 17, helped me decorate it all and get a chance to come here. It's pretty cute in here and clean, and everything is white. And, then you have the beautiful greens behind you. So that's how I turned it into Vertical Greens, because I wanted to show our community that you can take a garage, that's what this is, and grow food. You can grow it in your apartment, in your basement suite, in your garage, as long as it's heated, in a corner of your kitchen. And I wanted to empower people to take their power back, to feel like they can still grow food in the winter in Canada. So that's kind of how it all started.
Very cool. So how does it, from a layman's terms, how is it different from traditional gardening? How is aeroponics different from traditional gardening?
Okay, so aeroponics, they're actually watering themselves right now, but you can't hear it, I'm sure. Okay. So with gardening, you are using soil, right? So you also are exposed to a lot of bugs that are in the soil, or eggs, like spider eggs, and who knows what else is in the soil. You need to kind of know what you're doing. You can't just throw a whole bunch of seed in and something will pop. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it does, but there's different ways. There's different fertilizers. There's different nutrients you need to add to our soil, because our soils are so depleted in nutrients. So with tower gardens and aeroponically growing, we are using a small little growing medium called rock wool, and it's spun lava rock. So it's like a sponge to replace the soil. You place your seed in the rock wool cube, and you put that rock wool cube into the tower garden. So there is no pests, there is no soil, there is no dirt, there's no worrying about making a mess in the middle of your kitchen. And you don't really need to know what plant needs what nutrient, because a nutrient solution that is at the base with the water, it showers the roots, like it pushes it up, showers the roots, and it recirculates the same water over and over. So it's a lot different than traditional gardening.
Yeah. And can you, like, you got a bunch of stuff back there, like what can you grow? What do you?
Yeah, so why don't I tell you what you can't grow, because that's a small list. So you can't grow anything that goes inside the ground. So you can't do carrots or potatoes or onions or garlic, because they need to go inside the dirt, right? Everything above ground you can grow. So you can even grow things like your obvious things like your leafy greens, your herbs, your microgreens. But you can also do things like, I have tomatoes, I have cucumbers, I have peppers. What else do I have? I have some edible flowers. So you can really grow a wide range of things, which is really cool, without having the knowledge of what goes with what and what you should plant when, or worried about pests. Like I find in Kelowna, so many people tell me they have a beautiful yard, but all the deer come and eat all their produce.
Yeah.
Right? So you're investing all this time and money, and you're not even getting anything from that. So a great option to just bring it indoors from all the outside, distractions, and just grow inside.
Love it. So how's the reception been from the market since you started Vertical Greens? Like what are you hearing?
It's been kind of cool. I find the cool thing with towers, it's not just for one specific niche, right? It could be, I've been able to help some schools in town. The university contacted me. People are looking for future ways of gardening, maybe on a bigger scale, like Tower Garden Farms, but also your everyday person. We have so many more condos going up in Kelowna, and homes are being condensed, kind of how I grew up, back in the day. And so you don't have access to your gardens anymore. Even if you wanted to garden, now you're in this small condo, and we have a solution for that. So I feel like it's been really cool. It's all about educating people, right? So it's one thing to just send someone a message, tell them what it is, but when I can really invite them in to see them, that's when they go, oh, okay, it's only this big. Oh, I could actually put that in my basement, or I could put it in my storage room, or some people grow it in their furnace room.
Yeah, you don't need much space. That was one of my questions, but you can see in the background, you don't need a lot of space to do it, right?
No, yeah.
Crazy. So I know I was reading, like, one thing that you mentioned was that, like, you want to inspire others to grow their own food. So what's the first step? Like, what do you recommend for someone that's like, hey, this is cool, but now what? What do I do?
Now what? I would say number one is, let's figure out what you want to grow.
Okay.
You know, what varieties do you want to grow? And I always tell the beginner tower gardeners, the kit comes with seeds. Just go with those seeds. Don't
Got it.
overcomplicate it. Don't try to grow strawberries and
Right.
not peppers, but like things that have flowers that need pollinating, because we don't have bees in the house.
Right.
And it's like a step up gardening. So I always just say, just keep it simple. Everything comes with it. You
Yeah.
just get it delivered to your house and you get started.
Uh,
And if a 5-year-old can put it together, anybody can put it together. It's
awesome.
really easy. So really it's just learning about what they want to grow,
Okay.
and then maybe coming in and seeing which model. There's 2 different models you can get. So you can kind of see like the white base.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's only 2 feet wide. So it's the smallest of the two.
Okay.
And the bigger one with the green base is 3 feet wide, which still isn't very big.
Okay.
So I would just ask the question, what do you want to grow? And how many people are you feeding?
Mm,
That's really important to know, because if you're just feeding 2 people, any of these will do. But if you're
right.
feeding a family of like 6, you might want to get 2 or 3 towers and grow different things on each.
And do they come sort of like easy, like ready to assemble, just like
Yeah,
I'm looking, like you plug and play, for lack of a better word?
exactly. So the base has 2 rods,
Okay.
and then you're kind of putting A, B, A, B, A, B, like Lego.
Yeah.
And then you pop the lights on top. You fill the base with water, just with a jug or a hose, whatever you have access to. So it doesn't need water supply, because a lot of people ask me, do I need plumbing behind it? No, you don't.
Yeah.
You can just fill it up with those big blue jugs I usually, that you take camping. I just fill a couple of those up.
Yeah.
You put the nutrients in the bottom. You check your pH level. You plug in your pump so that the water is set on indoor timer. And then you make sure the lights are on from 12 to about 14 hours. You plug that in. And then, like I said, then you take your Rockwell cube, pop the seed in, put it in, and you just walk away.
Very
So
cool.
yeah, it's a plug and play system.
There've been restaurants that have used, like, because I see there's a mod, like it'd be kind of cool as a for herbs and stuff like that in restaurants. Are you seeing them adapting?
I haven't really ventured out. I feel like there's so many opportunities.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so there's still lots to do, lots of work to do and to share. But for restaurants, I think it would be really good, especially in the winter when they're importing all their herbs, right? So, and to grow it on site, there's nothing better than, we say farm to table, but this is going from tower to table.
I love
How
it.
cool if your chef had to come out and just like, oh, excuse me, let me just get your cilantro for your
Yeah,
tacos from right here. You get to see it.
that's
So,
awesome.
yeah,
Or
definitely.
wait for my mojitos.
Yeah.
What are some of the maybe misconceptions? Like, I'm sure when even you first started getting into this, there was things like maybe you were skeptical or not. What are some misconceptions maybe that you've been able to sort of like debunk going through this?
Yeah, I think the number one, we were just at the Kelowna Home Show for the
Okay.
weekend, and I would say most people said, that's beautiful, but I don't have room for it.
Mm,
And then I start thinking, do you live in a tiny home?
yeah, that's right.
And they're like, no, 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 I live in a townhouse. I'm like, oh, I'm pretty sure if you moved a piece of furniture, you could fit it in there. It's just really imagining and getting rid of things that are not serving you, right? So it's not having space, even though they're small. The
Yeah.
second thing is I don't have a green thumb. I kill even my house plants.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And I can attest to that right now as we speak. If you came to my house, I have about 3 plants. I don't know how they're alive because I only give them water when they're like crouched over.
Yeah.
But one of them just died on me, no matter how much I gave. I tried to, and it was like, no, you're too late, honey. You're done. But yeah, so those are mainly the two.
Okay.
And also sometimes cost. It's an investment,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
You're purchasing something that you will have for decades. It's not something you're just getting for a year or two. You will have it for a long time. So it's people trying to fit it into their budget. But we also offer a 12-month no interest payment plan. So that usually helps with, okay, well, on a monthly basis,
Yeah.
this is how much you need. And then after a year, it's yours. And you
Yeah.
buy whatever seeds you want.
Well, it saves you the money of, I mean, there's the health side, but you're also buying vegetables if you can grow some.
Uh,
And you
yeah.
know how expensive groceries are nowadays. So
And I think they're just going to keep going up. So definitely a good alternative I mean, you can't grow everything on your grocery bill, but you can grow, a lot of stuff. Yeah.
so one thing I noticed is that there's an educational component to what you guys do at Vertical Greens. So can you speak around that a little bit? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so for me, it's really just exactly like how I just educated you today about what is aeroponic gardening? How does it compare to traditional growing, right? It grows 3 times faster than when you plant a seed in the soil. It uses 90% less water, which I know is a huge thing right now,
Yeah.
water consumption. So if we can reuse the same recycled water over and over, instead of standing out there with a hose 3 or 4 times a day in the summer, right?
Yeah.
So I just like educating people on the ease of it. I also have had schools come. I actually have another school coming next week. They come, they show up in their little bus, and and then I ask them all kinds of questions about gardening. And this specific school that came, everybody knew what I was growing. It was really impressive.
That's
The
good.
kids could identify the plant, and I asked them if they garden, and they all put up their hands, and they helped me plant the seed into the rock, and we put their names on each of their
That's cool.
lettuces. It was really cute. But I find that is not the norm. Most kids don't know
Right.
what plant is what. And I think we need to get back to that. I'm all about going back to basics and keeping it simple. So that's what I really like to do, is empower people to feel like when you're having a hard time and you're worried about how am I going to pay for my groceries, or you tend to not buy the expensive produce and you go to other means of feeding your family, there is a way that you can still do it.
Right.
Um, Especially nowadays, people don't just work one job.
Oh
They're
no.
doing two,
No.
3 jobs. And who has time to garden? Even if you have a beautiful space, you don't really have the time. So this would save a lot of time and backaches, and the weeding. Oh, I cannot stand the weeding. I like doing it, and then it looks good. And then like a couple of days later, it doesn't even look
Yeah,
like you touched
yeah,
it,
yeah.
right?
Hilarious.
So that's kind of my education part. Is I just like to share with people that I have a solution to their problem.
What's your favorite thing to grow? What
Ooh,
do
my favorite thing is probably basil and arugula.
you love it?
Those two, because I love pizza and it just goes perfect with pizza. And I find when you grow it in your kitchen, you tend to use it. So let's say we made an omelet today.
Yeah,
I would probably take arugula. I would probably take basil, chop
yeah,
it up pretty small, some parsley. I have some microgreens. I even have cabbage leaves. I would probably chop those up. But if you're not growing it, you
yeah,
wouldn't go out to buy those things,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I
Um,
agree 100%.
you would just have like a cheese omelet, because most people have cheese and eggs, and then that's it.
Yeah,
So it's kind of cool to add in. The more greens we can add in, the better for our health too.
love it. So it's interesting you mentioned about sort of your background and where you grew up, and I'm an Italian family. Grew up
Oh,
with grandparents locally, like they came over from Italy, but big gardens. Like
yes.
we ate, like you said, everything was so. What? But from a place like as we grow older, I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't want to spend weekends like because they put a lot of time in their garden. They get up early in the morning. So you fall off, right? Like you said, you get busy with kids. So what's the one thing, no, if you had to say one thing, what's the one thing you'd want us to know about aeroponics gardening? Like what's the one key thing that you'd want to let the people know that maybe either I'm a gardener and haven't done it in years, or I'm not a gardener? Like what are some things that one thing you'd really want us to push out there?
I would say, exactly like to solve your problem. You're busy, you don't have the time. We just get kind of lazy too, right? Like we're like, man, I'd rather go boating on the weekend, or I'd rather
Yeah.
the cottage, and then you sit around all day, right? Instead of doing something. So I would say that you can still have access to the fresh produce like you did when you grew up, and like I did.
Yeah,
It's just a more simple, effective way that you could do it in your home while you're going away doing fun things that matter more.
I love
Um,
it.
because I love the summer, and the summer for me, when the summer comes, I want to be on the water all day,
Yeah,
all night, not in 35-degree weather,
yeah,
garden, right?
yeah. I agree.
So I would just say that I have a simple solution for you that would really solve that problem of not
I,
having the time.
I think it's a really, and I think part of there's like I said, there's a groceries are expensive. I think, when you have a family, you're picking up sometimes what you can afford, not necessarily what's the healthiest. And like you said, I love what you're saying. If it's in your house or by your kitchen, you're going to use it. You are going to grab what's there because like, oh, I should use this up. And so you start integrating into your everyday cooking, which you wouldn't if it's not there.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And it's fresh and it's local and there's nothing sprayed on it. And I always say to people, if you come here and you get some produce from me, you can just eat it right off the tower.
Yeah.
I don't even want you to wash it with city water.
Yeah.
Just use it because there's nothing, you know?
That's awesome.
And especially in Kelowna, I find in the summer, it's really hard because it's either too hot,
Right.
right? We have water restrictions or there's fires. So
Yeah.
everything's working against us to actually grow our own food. So what if you can just eliminate all of those things
Yeah.
and bring it indoors? But a cool thing too, I forgot to tell you, is you can put these outside.
Oh,
So I
okay.
just have the lights off and
Yeah.
I put my pool deck because I
Ah,
have a beautiful pool and tons of concrete, and I just pop it on the concrete and I let the bees do the pollinating and I let the sun do the, its thing, and still just fill up the water every few days, maybe 3, 4, 5 days in the heat of the summer. And I can still go to the cottage and come home and not have to worry about my garden being burnt and so it's a really cool thing that you can do indoors or outdoors. A lot of my customers just keep it inside because it's easier, but I like to put it outside in the
love it.
summer.
That's excellent. So where do you see you evolving with this? Like where do you want to go with, like, are you plans to like grow, or are you kind of happy doing what you're doing? Like where's the
So I would love it if we would see these more in our community, you know, more in schools, more in buildings. Like we have so much indoor space. You
right?
think of like the banks, when you stand there, there's so much space and there's nothing. It's just this blank, weird,
Yeah.
boring, big space where we could put like 10 or 15 towers and you could grow for your community. People could be lining up at the teller and eating something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Or
yeah.
you grow it and give it back to the food bank or to the community, whoever is your customer. At like naturopath offices, I could see these, at chiropractic offices, the food bank, the women's shelters, Mamas for Mamas. I'm actually doing a little fundraiser for them to try and get one into their facility. And really anywhere where there's space, I feel like we should grow our own food. So my vision is that in 5, 10 years, that will be the norm.
Love it. Well, Ilona,
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing your journey. I love what you're doing. I think it's so cool. It's great to see it too. I'm glad you had them there. So I think letting the viewers see what they actually look like. And then actually, I think they're almost like they're cool. They look cool too. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's actually it adds to your, if you had that in your kitchen or somewhere, I think it would add to it. It's actually pretty neat. So thank you for talking about what you're doing, and really enjoyed our discussion. It's been fun.
Thank you so much. It was great being here.
No problem. And I would just recommend everyone check out Vertical Greens Kelowna, learn more. If you have questions that maybe we didn't answer, just reach out to Ilona. I'm sure that we didn't cover everything. So if you have your own questions, please reach out. And if you like today's episode, we just ask you to share it, because we can share the brand and what we're trying to do. And this is, like today's is just trying to be more healthy living, right? So there's ways to do healthy living. So Ilona, again, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, have a great day.
Everyone else thank you for tuning in, and have a great day. Thanks.
We would like to thank your sponsor, Valley First, a division of First West Credit Union and a member-owned financial cooperative serving the Okanagan, Similkameen, and Thompson regions. They offer a wide range of banking and investment services for individuals and families. Valley First also has a talented business and commercial team to provide the expertise, products, and services local businesses need to grow and thrive.